Hey everybody, so I want to do something a little bit fun for Halloween. Halloween isn't really a thing in Australia, not really, but I do like a good holiday, so I figured I'd try and come up with a fun little video to create. It's kind of a little bit difficult, I guess, to mix Halloween and creating apps, but I figured it would be fun to create like a spooky app in Ionic. And so it kind of took a while for me to actually think of something, but I came up with an idea to create like a little ghost that randomly appears on the screen or something like that. And I'm going to do this in the style of some of my other videos I have on YouTube where I do a kind of live coding type of thing. And so basically I'm going to go in with that idea of what I'm going to create, just the general idea of having a ghost that just randomly appears on the screen. And I haven't really planned this out beforehand. I don't know how I'm going to build it. I don't know if it's going to end up being terrible or boring or whatever, but I'm going to build this on screen, keep all the errors in, or most of the errors in, and yeah, we'll just try and have a little bit of fun building this spooky app. Alright, so let's get right into it. Okay, so I've got a new application generated on my computer now, and so let's just start trying to build stuff. We're going to do this pretty ad hoc, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. So to get started, I think I'm just going to change the colors on here to make them a bit more Halloween-y. So let's just make those changes now, just for a bit of fun. We'll make the header like a Halloween orange, whatever you call that, like a carrot color. We'll set that to primary, and we're just going to change the variables to make that orange. And I'm also going to change the styling for the Ion content area. We're going to supply the, I think it's Ion background color, to change that to black. We'll just use the actual variable for that, which is, I believe, Ion color dark, I think. Let's just see if that has any effect. Cool, yeah, so we've got the dark background there. Now we just need to change that primary color to be like orange or something. I'm just going to go to flatUIcolors.com to grab a cool Halloween-y orange color. And let's go with, probably should do pumpkin, right? But we're going to go with carrot. So we're just going to come into the variables file here, and I should change all of these, but we're doing this quick. So I'm just going to change the primary color, save that. And hopefully we have something that looks just a little bit Halloween-y at least. I'm going to change the title as well to Spooky Ghost. And I can probably get rid of this text too. I don't really need that. Okay, so now we're going to actually get into building the thing. I don't really know what to call it yet. I guess we can just call him the Spooky Ghost. So I think I'm going to build this as a custom component that we'll be able to add to this page, and then the idea is that this ghost is just going to appear on the screen for a little bit and then disappear, and then appear somewhere else and disappear. And I don't know, maybe it could even be some challenge thing in your application where if the user can click the ghost, they can get a prize or something like that. It's a pretty silly idea, but we're going with it. So I'm going to start by actually generating a custom component. So I'm going to have to stop serving the application, and I'm going to run Ionic G component, components / spooky ghost. So that goes and generates a new component for us. And to start, what I want to do is just put something in the template here, and I just want to get it displaying on the screen, just to see that everything's all piped correctly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use I think it's the Snapchat ghost from Ionicons. If you're using this in a real life situation, you probably wouldn't want to use a trademarked logo as your ghost, but that is what we're going to do for now. So I'll just copy that Ion icon there, and I'm just going to put it in the template. And whilst we're here, actually no, that's pretty clean. So let's just try and get that component dropped into our home page now. So I'm going to add it to the home module. I'm actually going to remove it from the app module, which I can't see. There it is. This automatically gets added in here when you run that Ionic generate command, but we're just going to be supplying it to the home module. So I'm going to remove it from there. We come back into the home module. I'm going to import, what is it called? Spooky Ghost component. So import Spooky Ghost component from, so it's up one directory components / spooky ghost / spooky ghost.component. And then we'll just add that to the declarations. So if we save that now, we should now be able to use this component using its selector app spooky ghost. If we add that to our home page, hopefully we'll see the little Snapchat ghost just sitting on the screen. And obviously we're gonna have to serve the application again now. Okay, so you can see the little ghost sitting down there. He's small and he is white at the moment. All right, he's black. We want him to be white because it's a bit hard to see him against the dark background there. So what I'm going to do that is I'm just going to add a few styles for the ghost in the SCSS file. So I'm just going to target the Ion icon because that's going to be the only Ion icon we have in the component. And we're going to just set the color to white. Remember SVGs that the Ionicons use, they're basically just treated as fonts. So we could say set the font size to, I don't know, I guess we want it to be pretty big. Let's try to see what 26 pixels looks like. That's pretty cool. Let's go a bit more extreme maybe. Let's see 50 pixels. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll use that for now. Maybe if you wanted to make it more of a challenge, you could make it smaller, but we'll go with that. So now that we've got it displaying on the screen, we want to figure out a way to make this move around the screen and vanish and disappear. And so to make it vanish and disappear should be pretty straightforward. We can just, I'm just going to use simple CSS animations, just using the transition property. So we can basically toggle it between opacity 0 and opacity 1, and we're going to get that effect. I'm not too sure on exactly how I want to move it around the screen. So I want to keep this reasonably simple. So what I'm thinking is that I will just dynamically change the positioning properties in CSS. So let's say I could position it absolute, and if we position things absolute, it's going to be positioned relative to its container, or any container that has relative positioning. I actually have a video on that, so if I remember to link the video, I'll put it in the description. But if not, it was one of my Ionic Tips weekly videos I did. Anyway, yeah, let's stick with that absolute positioning. So since it's in the this Ion content container, and this will have relative positioning, if we position this absolutely within that, it can appear anywhere within this black box we have here. So to demonstrate that, what we're going to do basically is we won't be adding those styles in here, but I can say top 20 pixels, right 10 pixels. And so that should move it over here somewhere. Yeah, so now it's on the right hand side of the screen. And so what we basically want to do is just change these values dynamically. So I'm just going to delete them from there. And we're just going to figure out a way to set it to a value that's not greater than the width or height of the box here. Okay, so let's jump into the logic for this component. We're going to trigger something when the component first initializes. We're going to make a call to a method that's going to kick off this process. And we are going to have to use some kind of set interval because we want this to keep repeating and appearing and disappearing. So let's just try and think through that now. We'll just create an init method here. We'll call that as soon as this component is initialized or created. Actually, I'll be a little bit more descriptive with this. I'll say start spooking. And so inside of this, we're going to have a interval. So we'll say set interval, and then we pass that a function, and then how often we want it to trigger. So let's say every 3 seconds. So if I just log in here, do something, we'll see in the browser that this should kick off every 3 seconds as long as I've done that correctly. We should see that message popping up every 3 seconds. So there's the first one. If we wait another 3 seconds, we should see it again. Cool. So I'm actually going to lengthen that a bit, make that 5 seconds. And then what I want to do inside of this, and this is probably going to start looking a little bit messy, but once that is triggered, I also want to set, so we want to use this to say show the ghost, but then after it's being shown, we also want to hide it at some point. So we'll say we'll show the ghost every 5 seconds, and then 1 second after, or we'll say 2 seconds after we show it, we'll hide it. And I realize that I might not be making any sense here, but we'll go with this. I do want to point out as well, I'm relying heavily on set interval and set timeout and stuff for this particular functionality here, because we are dealing with timing. But generally speaking, if you see set timeouts in your code, that's usually a bad thing. But in this case, we're actually using it to, for the purposes it's intended, I guess. So we'll do the set timeout to 2 seconds there. So we'll change this to say show ghost and then hide ghost. So we'll jump back into the browser and we'll just see what's happening here. So we've got show ghost, hide ghost. Show ghost, hide ghost. Okay, so that is what we want. So now we actually need to make it do that. And to do this, what I might do is just, well, first of all, we are going to set a transition property on this. So this means when we're changing the opacity to hide and show the ghost, it's going to animate it rather than making it instant. So we'll give it a 0.5 second linear animation. That means it will show or hide over half a second. And I'm going to create an invisible class. So invisible, and we'll have that as opacity 0. And what we're going to do is bind this class to ghost based on some condition. So if we come back in here now, I'm going to bind it to this with the square brackets. I'm going to bind to class.invisible, and we're going to set that equal to, we'll create a member variable called ghost visible. And so then we need to come back in here and actually create that member variable. So we'll create ghost visible, and it's a Boolean. It's going to be true or false. And we'll initially set that to true. I think I've actually got things messed up here. I said, yeah, that's invisible. So we're going to set to ghost invisible, and we'll initially set it to false. So we'll have it initially, actually no, we'll have it hidden initially. So the ghost is invisible, and then we'll show it. I may have this all backwards here. Let me double check. So class.invisible, which, where is my CSS file? So invisible, opacity 0. Class.invisible applies when ghost invisible is true. And that's true initially, so it's initially invisible. Great. And then so in here, in our set interval, instead of just logging out a message, we can say this.ghost invisible equals false. And then in this one, we can say this.ghost invisible equals true. So we've kind of created this cycle now that's just going to loop indefinitely of showing and hiding this ghost. So we'll save that. And you see the ghost just popped up there and then it fades away. And we should see it continually looping and doing that. What I might do later as well, depends how long this video ends up going, but I thought a cool thing to do was, rather than having it be so cyclical and consistent, what you could do is when you call this set interval function, set up like a random check. So maybe give it like a 1 in 5 chance of succeeding. And so that way it's going to make it rarer to show the ghost basically, and it's not always going to show. So basically every 5 seconds, this has a 1 in 5 chance of happening. Or you could even make it rarer than that or more common than that. But then you're just going to get this situation where maybe, like in a realistic scenario, you could have in your application where someone's just using it, and then just very rarely this ghost would pop up briefly and they'd have a chance to click it. That's going to make this video pretty awkward though, if I did that, because well, I don't really want to just be sitting around waiting for the ghost to appear, so I will see. I don't know if we'll do that or not, but I do like the idea. But the main thing we need to be focusing on is moving the ghost around the screen now. So what I might actually do is we'll separate this function out into its own thing here. So I'm going to create a show ghost function, and we're going to move this code to here, and we're just going to trigger this .showGhost. And then so what we want to do in here is change the position of the ghost. Now it might be a little bit cheaty here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the window.innerWidth and innerHeight, and this probably isn't the best way to grab it, just referencing the window object directly, but I'm going to be a bit naughty here and just do it that way. So this should give us the height and width of the window, and then we can set the position of the ghost based on that. So you can see here 360 by 640, which is the value of the emulator that we're using right now. So the good thing about this is that no matter what size the screen is, it's going to give us sort of the bounds of the application. So then we just want to set the left and top values for that absolute positioning based on this. And so we basically just want to choose a random integer between 0 and 640 or 0 and 360. I always forget how to actually get a random integer between numbers. So let's search JavaScript ES6 random integer. We'll just search random integer because we don't need to do it between two specific values. We're just doing it from 0 to whatever the number is. So let's bring up the MDN website here. Yeah, so there's this handy little function we can use there. So we will just straight up copy this, and we'll just have to get rid of that function keyword there. And so now we can just call getRandomInt and supply this value to get a number between 0 and that. So let's just check that this works okay. So this.getRandomInt, and we supply that as the max value. We'll do that for this as well. Oops. And just so we're not completely just, copying and pasting this code, I'll quickly talk through this. So we have the random function, the math.random function, which I believe returns a random or pseudo-random number between 0 and 1. And the math.floor function will round a number down. So if you have 0.2, it'll go to 0. If you have 1.3, it will go down to 1. And so what's happening here is we're getting that random number and timesing it by the max number, the floor of the max number, and then whatever the result of that is, we're then rounding that down as well. Okay, so let's just see what values we actually get from this. Where are we? Back in here. So basically we don't want values over 640 or over 360. So that first value looks good. And yeah, from looking at the numbers so far, it seems to make sense. This is a situation where probably some automated tests would be a good way to verify this all works, but we are just keeping this simple and fun for now. So basically now all I need to do is I'm going to name these as variables just to make it clearer. So we'll say let top value equal get random int of the window height, and we'll let the left value equal the inner width, or the random integer between 0 and the max value of the inner width. And now we just want to set those values as the top and left style values. And so since we are dynamically modifying these style values, what I'm going to do is use Angular's renderer. And we're going to use that to set these styles rather than directly manipulating the DOM. And again, I have articles and videos about this. If I remember, I will link them. Yeah, if not, just search around about Angular's renderer, and yeah, you should be able to find some information about that. And so we're also going to be setting the styles on the icon here. So we're going to have to grab a reference to that. We'll just grab it by adding a template variable to this. We'll just call it ghost, and we should be able to just grab that using viewChild. So we'll import that from Angular core, and we'll set up a reference to it here. I already forgot what I called that, ghost. And I'll just name this ghost icon, I guess. And so in here, we'll just check that we actually have a reference to that by logging out this .ghost icon. Okay, cool, you can see the icon there. And so this isn't actually, I was expecting a reference to the Angular, the element ref, and we could grab the native element from that. I'm not sure if this will actually work as it is with the Angular renderer. So what I'm going to do is we're going to import element ref, and we're going to tell viewChild to read element ref. So we'll get a reference to the actual element ref in here, hopefully. So we'll just reload that. And yeah, that's what we want, that native element there. So we'll be modifying this .ghost icon.native element. Okay, so that's what we want, and that's we're going to modify the styles on this. So now we're also going to import the renderer 2, which is the new version of the renderer, and that's all, I think. So what we're going to do here is inject the renderer in here. So we'll do private renderer 2. And now we're going to set those top and left values on the ghost icon. So we're going to say this.renderer as a set style. And we supply this with the element we want to change, the style we want to change, and then the value. So the element we want to change is so this.ghost icon.native element. And whilst we're here, I'm just going to delete this as well. The style we want to change is top, and the value we want to use is, or actually, we'll move this beneath that so we can actually use that value. So we want to use top value, and then we'll just repeat that again for the left value. So let's see if anything good happens now. Hopefully it does. Did I even, yeah, I did, cool. So we'll see where the ghost appears. First he appears over there. So that is not good. He is continually appearing in the same spot. So why would that be happening? So we'll log out this, every time we'll log out this ghost icon, and we're gonna manually check those values. So we're gonna have to log out just the icon, not the element. Okay, so we had the native element here. We want the style, there it is. And then the top and the left values. So I'm expecting, now I am confused. So if we just select this guy in here, we have the Ion icon here. And for example, if I put in left 100 pixels, you do move over. And we do have a reference to the Ion icon. Am I doing something silly here? Well, just in case I'm using this wrong somehow, let's try just directly modifying this the style. So we'll try this.ghost icon.native element .style .top. This is exactly what I was saying. Oh, wait a minute. I think I just figured it out. Maybe. I'm just setting numbers as the top and left values. Is that... Yeah, it has to be px. I forgot to put the pixels on the end, so that's probably what's happening there. I'm just trying to set left to 100 rather than 100 pixels. So let's stick with this for now, and we'll say, so the top value is that plus px. And with any luck, hopefully that will work this time, because otherwise I'll be very confused again, and that makes me sad. So we had the first ghost appearing, hey, there we go. Now he's appearing down in the bottom rightish there. Cool, now he's appearing there. And the cool thing here is, I thought this might happen. He's went off screen. Why did you do that? It was probably because we're also considering this this navbar height here as part of the calculation. So technically speaking, the ghost can go off screen. But I don't think that's a problem in this case. It does look kind of cool. But anyway, I thought this might happen where, since we have that transition property on, it's also going to transition that position change. So rather than just appearing in a particular place, we can have him zooming across the screen, which is pretty cool. One more thing I did want to try. I'm not going to worry about doing that random thing I mentioned, because the video is getting a little bit longer, but I do want to see if it is easy just to add a click handler to this. And we're going to trigger a winner method here, and I'll define that, and we'll just log out. You got him. You got him. And now I'm going to try click on him, and hopefully we get a little message pop up. All right, cool. Yeah, so we can, if we manage to click on the ghost in time before he fades away, we can log out a little message here, which obviously means we can do whatever we like. So if you want to have some kind of win condition in your app where something actually good happens, you could trigger that here. And you could mess with these values as well. Like maybe you want to hide the ghost much quicker. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so you can see it comes on screen, disappears a lot quicker now. He's much more spooky now this way. So yeah, that could be a little bit of fun. Yeah, mostly I just wanted to come up with something vaguely Halloween related for today's video. And I like doing this kind of on-screen stuff. We don't always come up with the best code on the spot. Usually you want to plan things out, think about things a bit better. You probably want to refactor the code you make, but I do like just kind of spitballing on screen, just making things, hacking away at things. And even though we're probably not doing things the most optimal way here, the most maintainable way, I think it is kind of interesting just to do stuff like this, and perhaps you can see a little bit of my thought process as well as I build things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it didn't scare you too much, and yeah, I'll see you